Hey everyone, so I travel a lot and 99.9% of the time I have this thing with me. While it's never really a totally pleasant experience to travel with a cello, I've been flying for about a decade now with this thing, and along the way I've picked up a few things to minimize the difficulty of the experience. So here is the definitive guide to everything I've learned about traveling with a cello. So the very first thing that people ask me when I'm at the airport with my cello is, how do you get that thing on the plane? And the answer is very simple. You buy an extra seat for it. Now there is another way to get your cello on a flight without paying for an extra seat, but I personally don't do it because it's a lot riskier, so I'll get to that later. Back in the day when airports and airlines were way more chill and you didn't have to go through security and there weren't any baggage, weight, and size restrictions, legend has it that you could just bring your cello with you and ask them to put it in the first class cabin's coat closet. Now, unfortunately, airlines and airports are much stricter nowadays, so that's not a thing you can do anymore. It's actually happened to me a few times that when I'm boarding the plane, flight attendants have asked me if I want to put my cello in the coat closet, and I'm always like, I wish, but I already bought a ticket for this thing. Anyway, the next question that people usually ask me is if I have to pay full price for the ticket, and the answer is sometimes. Some airlines will discount the taxes off of the ticket. This is because most of the taxes on an airline ticket are actually taxes that apply to humans and therefore can't be applied to an object like a cello. So a lot of airlines, if you ask them, will take those off the ticket. Another thing that a lot of people don't know is that a large percentage of the cost of a flight is actually in taxes. So there have been times when I've gotten up to 50% of my ticket reduced because it was for a cello. Airlines with whom I've flown who discount the second ticket are Air France, Lufthansa, British Airways, Swiss, KLM, American Airlines. But honestly, even if you're not sure if the airline offers a discount or not, it's always worth it to just ask the booking agent. Sometimes they're not even sure and they have to check with their managers, so just make sure to ask. Now here's the catch. You can't just go online and book a second seat under your name and use that for your cello. You have to call the airline, tell them you want a special seat for a musical instrument, and have them book it for you. With many airlines, if you just try to buy 2 tickets under your name, when you get to the airport, they're going to tell you that the second one is improperly booked, cancel it, and make you buy a new one on the spot, which is going to be way more expensive because it's right before the flight. When you're on the phone with the booking agent and they ask you what the size and weight of your instrument are, tell them that it's 45 by 45 by 100 centimeters and 10 kilograms. Most airlines will typically accept this. Depending on the airline and the agent in question, booking a ticket for your cello can take anywhere from 20 minutes to 6 to 10 hours on the phone every day for 2 weeks straight while you're being transferred from one department to the other because nobody can figure it out. Yeah, I lived through that. And by the way, my mistake there was that I bought my ticket through a travel site and then later called the airline to try to get them to add a second seat for my cello. And since the first reservation was made through a travel agency, they couldn't change it, and it just ended up being this huge mess that didn't get figured out until the day before my flight. And I was on the phone with the travel agents so many times at all these different call centers that they actually knew me after 2 weeks. But yeah, save yourself that nightmare and just call the airline directly and don't try to do what I did. For most budget airlines like Ryanair, EasyJet, WOW Air, Wizz Air, Eurowings, they don't give you a discount on your second ticket, but the pro to booking with them is that you can book your ticket for your instrument directly online. In most cases, you should put first name seat, last name cello on the ticket, and the only exception I know of is for United, which is not a discount airline, but they actually don't give a discount for the cello ticket. And for them, you have to put CBBG, which stands for cabin bag, and then your last name for the cello seat. And by the way, no, you can't create a second profile for your instrument to accumulate miles and travel points. This goes against most airlines' policies and you could get banned from life, which is what I believe happened to Lynn Harrell on Delta Airlines. So now that you have your ticket, what do you do at the airport? First of all, be there early because you can't check in online because of the extra seat. Your boarding pass has to be printed by an agent at a special services counter because it's not a human and they have to register it as an object. Now, even at the special services counter, sometimes they have no idea what to do. and what usually confuses them is the passport number. So the problem is that for international flights, there has to be a passport number associated with the ticket. Now the problem is they can't have two tickets with the same passport number, so what you need to tell them to do, and this is totally legit because an agent once told me this, is to tell them to enter a fake passport number. Basically, they can just take your passport number and change one digit and put that one on the cello seat, and it'll work in the system. By the way, here's the tip. I learned this summer. If you're traveling domestically within the United States and you have a US ID, meaning a driver's license or a non-driver's ID card, you don't actually have to go through an agent. You can use a kiosk. That's because for domestic travel, you don't need to enter a passport number. So you can just use a kiosk and for a moment pretend you're a normal person traveling without an instrument. In my last flight out of LaGuardia, I actually timed the amount of time it took me to go from the car to the gate, and it was only 11 minutes. All because I used a kiosk. Oh, also very important, your cello always has to be in a window seat and it can't be in an emergency exit row. This is because obviously in case of an emergency evacuation, people have to be able to get out of the aircraft quickly and your cello can't be blocking their way. So if you're booking online, make sure you choose a window seat. If you're booking with an agent, most of the time they know to do this, but if for whatever reason you realize that you don't have a window seat, just let someone at the gate know, or even ask a flight attendant once you're on the aircraft and they can switch you with someone else. So anyway, back to security. Sometimes they'll make you open up your case to do a chemical test on your instrument. This is totally harmless. It looks kind of scary, but all they do is take a swab your instrument and put it into a machine to test for chemicals and explosives. It's totally harmless. However, do make sure that you keep an eye on your cello while it's going through the security belt, because sometimes I've seen other pieces of luggage push against it and I'm always terrified that that's gonna cause it to fall off the belt. So stay by it and watch it the entire time. Also, if anyone ever asks to inspect your instrument separately, be aware that it is your right to remain with all your possessions at all times, so insist on being present. In my experience, most security agents are respectful of your instrument and understanding that it's a valuable object. However, you never know who you'll get, so it's always better to speak up rather than end up with a damaged instrument. So once you're through security, you have to get your instrument on the plane. Getting on an aircraft is stressful enough without an instrument, but having a cello, carry-on suitcase, bag, and snacks, very important, as I usually do, and being very tall, it is a minor nightmare to push through a narrow, low-ceilinged corridor full of very stressed people to get to my seat, for myself and everyone around me. What I always do is get to the gate early and ask the agents there if I can pre-board with the disabled passengers and families with children. Most of the time they agree to this immediately. Sometimes they actually come up to me even before I get there and ask me to do that. However, if you encounter any resistance, just explain to them that it'll make the whole process easier for not just yourself but everybody else as well, and this will usually do the trick. Now, I'm sure everyone has seen photos of all the different variations of how to put a cello into an airplane seat. Some airlines and airports insist on doing it themselves. Some use a rope. I've seen a weird, complicated rope system with a net once where they flip the cello upside down. I'm not really sure why. But in most cases, the flight attendant will just give you an extension seat belt and ask you to wrap it around the cello. At this point, you can kick back, relax, and enjoy all the benefits of flying with a cello. Yes, there are a few. Mainly having one less neighbor, or if you're in a two-seat row, having no neighbor at all. Having a very convenient thing upon which you can lean to take a nap. And getting another extra meal if you want one, because remember, you paid for that seat and everything that comes with it. By the way, you can also take extra luggage on flights if they don't give you the taxes off. If you paid full price for both tickets, you're allowed to take double the baggage allowance. So good to know if you want to take an extra bag. A few last quick tips. A lot of people ask if you need to do anything special to your instrument before you fly. Some people lower the tension on their strings, but I personally never do this. However, I do sometimes use a stretto because it can get really dry in an aircraft. I talk about that in my What's in My Cello Case vlog, which I will link below. Oh, another thing I talk about in my What's in My Cello Case video is making sure you have a certificate stating that your instrument and bow are yours, and making sure that there are no endangered species or ivory on your instrument or bow. Also, if you run out of space in your suitcase or you don't want to take a bag at all, don't underestimate how much stuff you can fit in a cello case alongside with your cello. I usually throw all my scores in the back behind my instrument, and I sometimes stuff clothing into the sides if I'm traveling light. So you can fit a surprising amount of things in a cello case. And finally, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, what's the way to fly with your cello without buying an extra seat? Well, there are some companies that sell a flight case, which is basically a huge case that goes over your case. I personally don't do this because 9 out of 10 times your cello is fine, but I've also seen cellos smashed to pieces in those things. So, your call. So all of that is stuff I've learned in the last 10 years or so of traveling with my instrument. I've had wonderful and terrible experiences at airports, ranging from me playing for everyone at the security line to me being yelled at by some very angry people. Flying with a cello can be an incredibly stressful experience, and I hope that some of these tips help you. But at the end of the day, honestly, the two most important things are to stay calm and smile. Airports are hectic environments, and everyone around you is just as overwhelmed and tired as you are, if not more. Don't take it personally if someone is grumpy or rude to you. Everyone around you is just trying to get where they're going and do their job. Instead of instigating more drama, try to always be the one who's calm and in control. I've de-escalated many potential conflicts by just staying calm, talking, and explaining my situation politely. In my experience, people are much more understanding if you address the situation with calmness and control instead of freaking out and yelling. So I hope these tips help you. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you know when the next one is out. And meanwhile, you can keep up with what I'm doing on Instagram.com/SophiaBaslar and Facebook.com/SophiaBaslar. Thanks for watching. Bye!